research from the BBC has found that almost half of families argue over which bin a plastic item should go in when throwing it away. Different councils have different rules on what can be collected. The analysis by the BBC has found as many as 39 variations across the country. The government has now announced a review into how we recycle our plastic. Well, Helen Bird is the Recycling and Collections Advisor at the recycling charity WRAP. Margaret Bates is Professor of Sustainable Waste Management at the University of Northampton. Thank you both for coming in. We all know it's confusing, so to help us all out, you've brought a whole load of stuff here, and I really want to know what we can actually recycle and what we can't. Talk us through.
Sure. So now a really good number of local authorities are collecting a really wide range of plastics. We've gone in the last 10 years from 18% to nearly 80% collecting a good deal of what we would call these rigid plastics. But, you know, it can be a little bit confusing because there are different types of them, and that's what our research consistently says. But take this, for example, there's a trigger spray cleaning bottle. This actually could be recycled just as it is. You don't need to worry about removing the top here.
Or reuse it.
I do.
Yes,
Yes,
things like that a lot. You only need so many of them, but you can.
You can do with some, and some of them are tamper-proof and can be a bit tricky to take off, but you're absolutely right there.
OK, so that's one. What about this? I mean, when you're faced with that, can that all go in the bin?
So, actually, this film here is a different type of plastic to the tray, and indeed you've got something else, a different type of plastic here. So if you're recycling an item like that, then really what you need to do is take these bits off, and then you can put this tray into the recycling. This would need to be disposed of in your rubbish bin. Interestingly, this is actually the same type of plastic as carrier bags. And although not that many local authorities collect films such as these from householders, what you can do is actually get them together with bread bags and other carrier bags and take them to supermarkets, because most of the biggest supermarkets have got collection points for this film specifically.
But you couldn't put it in your recycle bin?
The majority of local authorities would not collect those types of films separately.
OK, little plastic forks.
Well, this is an interesting one because actually I don't know what type of plastic this is made of,
right.
And it could be that it might be a plastic called polypropylene, which is the same as this, and that's got really good strong end markets. But I don't know what it is, and it could be that it's made of, for example, a compostable plastic, and if compostable plastics enter the same recycling stream as these other ones, it causes contamination issues. So I would not put that in my recycling bin.
But it's possible it could be. Even you don't know. The expert doesn't know.
That's correct.
How can the rest of us be expected to know? I mean, why is it so complicated?
I think the labelling doesn't help. Personally, I'd like to see mandatory labelling. So if you look at this, for example, this has nothing on it that identifies whether it can be recycled or not. And confusingly, it has a green dot scheme, which doesn't apply in the UK, so people think that means it can be recycled.
I also thought that meant it's being made from recycled material. Does that not mean that?
No, it's a common misconception.
So we don't really know what that means?
It doesn't apply in the UK.
Weird. Why is it there?
Because they don't just make these for the UK, they make them for the European market.
Right.
Yeah. What it means essentially is that the producers of that packaging have paid into a scheme to recover that material, but not here in the UK. It's something that's applicable in other countries in Europe.
I was interested in our report earlier that you were saying that the thing to do with something like this is to squish it down, screw the lid back on, and then the whole thing can be recycled. Because I get rid of those separately because I thought they couldn't be recycled, and then obviously you can't squish that down, so...
That's right. So in the majority of local authority areas, that is absolutely what we would like people to do. It is important to make sure that the bottle is empty, because otherwise when it's going through the recycling process, it could end up in a different stream. You could give it a really quick rinse, but we would never ask people to spend lots of time and energy and water washing plastics, because they do go through an industrial process. But yes, absolutely, getting the air out of it to make sure that we're transporting these materials efficiently, and getting the lid back on will make sure that the lid gets recycled as well as the bottle. If the lid goes in separately, when it goes through the recycling process, one of the first things that happens is it goes through a piece of machinery with holes in it, which is designed to remove small items of contamination. So the lid would be lost.
And so that's the issue with straws, isn't it? Why straws are just too little? Because there's a big thing about plastic straws.
That's right. I mean, with straws, yeah, it is a challenge to get them through that process when they're mixed with other materials. It's also a challenge actually to get them into the process to begin with. So, you know, with items like straws, I guess we have to start questioning, actually, do we even need them at all?
I hate paper straws, though. I mean, it's kind of better to do without, isn't it, than
but
the
there are
paper
some
ones.
people with disabilities or health issues that
Of
really
course,
need
you
plastic
yeah.
straws, so we need to balance
Fair
our
enough.
equality
And I've seen
issues.
them, I'm sure I've seen the ones that do actually decompose in the way that you're talking about with
But
some plastics.
you need to know what happens to your waste.
Right.
So, for example, if you have something that says it's compostable,
Yeah.
then you need to check it's going to composting.
Right.
Otherwise, the safer thing is probably to put it in your residual bin.
Okay. I want to bring in some comments, because we've had lots of comments. Stuart on email: I have terrible trouble trying to get information on what is acceptable for recycling. I've moved to 3 different places over the last 20 years and all have different acceptable items. I'm now in Edinburgh and no one here seems to know what items they can put into the recycle bin. An anonymous texter: here in Weston-super-Mare we have hard plastic collected. I worry about the amount of wrapping, i.e. crisp packets that's sent for landfill. So much is used in products. One anonymous texter: is it not better for householders to shred or cut up plastic bags and coated plastic packets for easier degradation in landfills? What's the answer to that?
Not really, no.
No.
I wouldn't worry about that kind of thing. But one of the troubles when you've got people who are writing in and saying, I don't know and nobody will help me, is with austerity, a lot of local authorities had dedicated people whose job was to help people understand the systems, and unfortunately, in cuts, they're one of the first people to go.
We're almost out of time. If you are not clear, is it better to put everything in the recycle and just trust that someone at the other end will filter it out? Or, I mean, what you did say is you actually opt the other way sometimes.
I think not. I think that what's really important is material quality. The waste management companies and local authorities do a fantastic job and are able to recycle a lot of plastics. Okay. But if you're not sure, it is better to leave it out.
If in doubt, leave it out.
Leave it out.
All right, thank you both very much, very helpful. And if you want to find out more, you can go to the BBC website with a detailed information on what you can and can't recycle. I will see you soon. Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.